Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord,
Yahushua,
who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in
Yahushua,
according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by
Yahushua,
to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will, to the praise of the glory of his grace, wherein he hath made us accepted in the beloved.
I, Esdras, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So I asked the angel, and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing, and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of Yahweh. Now are they crowned, and receive palms. Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them, and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of Yahweh, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way, and tell my people what manner of things, and how great wonders of the Lord thy God thou hast seen.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. All right, well, I want to get into today, to continue on in the book of First Kings. All right, we made it to the third chapter. All right, and in this chapter, okay, we're going to see King Solomon, okay, be solidified, in his rulership, by asking for wisdom. This is, the famous chapter in which, the Most High comes to King Solomon in a dream, and King Solomon, wants wisdom, and as we understand, we fell away, from all wisdom. We lost everything as a people. All right, and the Lord, is building us back up. All right, it's the house of David, the dynasty of David, and we're being built up with wisdom, because we're rich, in faith, we're rich in wisdom. We have abundance in both, okay? And it's leading, okay, to a physical kingdom, all right? Which it says that, matter of fact, let's get that in the wisdom of Solomon, all right? Because we got to go back to it, okay? This is the wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, and verse, matter of fact, I'll just go to it. All All right, this is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, and verse 20. And it says, therefore, the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom. You know, so we've been awakened, to desire wisdom. You see, in the world, we desire, just, pleasure and lust and, material things and attention and clout. Okay. But as we, become new creatures, now we have a desire for wisdom, true wisdom. Okay. The wisdom of the scriptures, man. Okay. Which the wisdom of the scriptures cover everything dealing with any type of wisdom. We're going to get into as we get on in the chapter. Okay. It says, if your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, honor wisdom. Okay. Honor wisdom that ye may reign forever. Okay. So this wisdom that we have, is bringing us to a kingdom, and not just any kingdom, a kingdom in which we will reign forever under Yahushua. Okay. So when you go back here to 1 Kings 3, there's an example, of King Solomon. He honored wisdom, okay, and he was rewarded. So let's go here to 1 Kings 3. I'm getting an NLT. All right, this is 1 Kings 3. And 1, it says, Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and married one of his daughters. He brought her to live in the city of David until he could finish building his palace and temple, and saying the temple of the Lord and the wall around the city. Okay. So King Solomon, when he would marry, the heathen women, he would marry, all right, these different princesses. Okay. He wasn't just marrying, just, to get married. All right. Because in the ancient world, marriage, was the way that, men sealed deals, especially men of certain rank, certain status. Okay. And especially amongst the highest, of men, they would seal certain deals with a marriage. Okay. So this alliance, all right, that he had with Pharaoh, all right, was sealed through a marriage. Okay. And it says at that time, the people of Israel sacrificed their offerings at local places of worship, for a temple honoring, all right, the name of the Lord had not yet been built. Solomon loved the Lord and followed all the decrees of his father David, except that Solomon too offered sacrifices and burnt incense at the local places of worship. So this is King Solomon, all right, young, in his right mind. This is King Solomon, young, humble, okay, before, the latter part. All right. And let me look it up. See if you give us something. Okay, to just for later. All right. So keep reading on. And it says, Solomon loved the Lord and followed all the decrees of his father David, except that Solomon too offered sacrifice and burnt incense at the local places of worship. The most important of these places of worship was at Gibeon. So the king went there and sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. That night the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream, and the Most High said, what do you want? Ask and I will give it to you. Okay, so this is the Lord, all right, coming to, King Solomon in a dream, and he's asking him, like, what do you want? Unless that sacrifice was accepted. Okay. It says 1 Kings 3 and 6, and mainly of the conduct, the conduct, King Solomon's conduct, was acceptable in the sight of the Lord, and he came to, bless, King Solomon whatever he wanted. It says Solomon replied, you show faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you, and you have continued your faithful love to him today by giving him a son to sit on his throne. Now, O Lord, my power, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. All right. and he was young. Okay, and being a ruler, that's a lot of responsibility. Okay, that's a lot of responsibility, man, to be a king over a nation. All right, but we know who that is. He's built for it. King David, prepared him, before he left. Now, when you get this, I just asked how old was King Solomon when he began to reign. It says Solomon was approximately 20 years old when he began to reign, while some um, will account that he was 12 or 15 when he became king. 20 is more widely accepted. The prophet and priest Zadok anointed Solomon as co-regent with his father David, and David commanded his inauguration to be immediate. Okay, so they say it's more accepted. Okay, that he was 20. When he began to reign. It's widely accepted that he was 20. But the point is he was young. Okay, so going back, all right, to First Kings. This give or take here or there. All right, but he was a young man. Okay, and it says, verse 7 says, "Now, O Lord, my power, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. And here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great and numerous they cannot be counted. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong, for who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours." So King Solomon's request was for understanding mind, to know the difference between what right and wrong. Okay, discernment, to judge. You see, he was asking for the tools to be a good judge because the king was the top judge of a nation. Okay, so he prayed for that understanding and wisdom, that discernment between right and wrong, so he can be a good judge. All right, so he can be a good service to the people. Okay, he said the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. So the Most High replied, "Because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice, and have not asked for a long life or wealth or the death of your enemies, I will give you what you asked for. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such as no one else, all right, has had or ever will have." Okay? And it says, "And I will also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. No other king in all the world will be compared to you for the rest of your life." Okay? So the Heavenly Father, he will bless, Solomon, with wisdom. Okay? Then he would bless him with everything else. Okay? But it started with him, wanting wisdom, making a request, to have wisdom and understanding. Okay? And King Solomon, when you go into the wisdom of Solomon, all right, let's go here to the wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, and it kind of goes into depth of the wisdom, that was bestowed upon him. Okay? So let's go, let's get this in the wisdom of Solomon. All right, so let's get this in the wisdom of Solomon. All right, chapter 7. And we're going to start at verse 7. It says, "Wherefore I prayed, and understanding was given me. I called upon the Most High, and the spirit of wisdom came to me." Okay? So he's speaking of that account in First Kings, the 3rd chapter. As he made those sacrifices, you see, he prayed, wisdom, eventually the Lord, came to him. Okay? It says, "I prefer her before scepters and thrones, and esteem riches nothing in comparison of her. Neither compare I unto her any precious stone, because all gold is respect of her is as little sand, and silver shall be counted as clay before her. I love her above health and beauty, and chose to have her instead of light, for the light that cometh from her never goeth out. Because this wisdom, you see, the wisdom from Yahweh Bashima Shai is created to be immortal. Okay, with the wisdom, all right, you go into the law, statutes, and commandments, and the wisdom, of Yahweh Bashima Shai, man, which even goes beyond, those laws. The laws are the foundation, okay, of how to run, okay, a sovereign nation, okay, on how the earth, should be governed, okay, and then there's just infinite wisdom of the intricates, the intricate part, okay, of rulership, okay, and it's meant to run the earth forever. That's why scriptures say what? We go back to this, okay. This is look at this in Baruch. And we go back to Wisdom of Solomon. This is Baruch chapter 4. Okay, everything is founded, on wisdom. Could get to enjoy, wealth, to enjoy, women and children, and okay, to enjoy, the resources. Well, there's a wisdom to it. All right, to truly enjoy things, well, there has to be a wisdom, okay, in the picture, man. All right, because people have wealth and particular thing, but there's no wisdom. Okay, because wealth without wisdom can be self-destruction, destructive to other people, as we see with Esau Edom, because he has the wealth, he has the resources, he has the material thing, but he doesn't operate in the wisdom of Yahweh Shem Al Shai, and it's self-destructive to himself and to everyone else. Okay, it's terrible when you have resources and power without wisdom. Okay, it says this is Baruch 4:1. It said, this is the book, all right, of the commandments of the Most High, and the law that endureth forever. Okay, this law would never get old. See, Esau's system, okay, and systems of these heathens, you study the heathens and their empires. Well, they always, came to a point to where they would have to always try to make changes and reform and, try to do different things and try to do this differently. The economy will be failing and this will be failing. They would try to implement this, okay, because anything outside of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, okay, the commandments and the wisdom of the Most High, okay, is not meant to last forever. See, the law is going to endure forever. It's going to keep it. The law is going to keep everything in check forever. Okay, and it says, all they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Okay, so the wisdom of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai is a light that never goeth out. Okay, the light of all these other empires, okay, eventually went out. Okay, because they wasn't given the wisdom, that breath, okay, from Yahweh Bashim Al Shai to rule forever, man. That's only for Israel. That's reserved for Israel. Okay, so you go back. If I didn't mean to do that, let's go here. Back to Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter. The Wisdom of Solomon, it's a heavy book. Let's go back. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. All right, so going back into it, verse 7, verse 10, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 10, it says, I love her above health and beauty, and chose to have her instead of light, for the light that cometh from her never goeth out. Because even, you go into what's that, Job 18, it speak about the light of the wicked shall be put out. This left hand, wickedness is left hand, wisdom that Esau runs the earth with is dimming out. Okay. And there's no revamping it, man. All right. It says all things, it's the point, all good things together came to me with her, and innumerable riches in her hands. Okay. So all good things came, all right, to me with her, which is wisdom, and innumerable riches in her hands. And I rejoiced in them all because wisdom goes before them. And I knew not that she was the mother of them all. So the mother, what does a mother do? It births things, man. Okay. So when you go into riches and power and wealth and resources, wisdom births these things. Okay. Peace. You see, wisdom it births these things, man. Order. Okay. Because you go here, let's go to the next. Um, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8. So you go to the next chapter. What does it say? It says, wisdom reaches from one end to the other mightily, and sweetly though she order all things. Okay, so wisdom puts things in order, produces, let's say, peace. Okay, produces efficiency and righteousness, man. All right, and this is what King Solomon, was granted. Okay, and it says, back in verse 12, it says, and I rejoiced in them all because wisdom goeth before them, and I knew not that she was the mother of them. I learned diligently and do communicate her liberally. I do not hide her riches, for she's a treasure unto men that never faileth. All right, true wisdom never faileth, man. You see, and we're going to see the scripture say wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our time. We're going to see, applying wisdom in the times to come, how clutch is going to be, man. Okay, even having the wisdom to know to be willing to die for Yahweh Bashim Al Shad, then to bend the knee to the beast, like that's going to pay off forever. Just to have that wisdom to do that in that moment, that's going to pay off forever. You see, wisdom never faileth. Okay, so we're going to always choose the wisdom of Yahweh Bashim Al Shad. Being faithful to our power, that's wisdom. Being humble, that's wisdom. You see, teaching the right doctrine, these things, all this is wisdom. Okay, wisdom has a lot of layers, man. Manifold is going to go into. It says which they that use become the friends of the Most High, being commended for the gifts that come from learning. Okay, so they that use wisdom become friends of the Most High. You see, this is heavy. Applying wisdom puts us in friend status with Yahweh Bashim Al Shad. Okay, and if we got that friend status with Yahweh Bashim Al Shad, we good. We straight. The world can hate us, man. Okay, but we're going to keep applying this wisdom real time, man. Going out to the highways and byways, that's wisdom. Listening to the instructions of these books, rehearsing the righteous acts, that's wisdom, man. Okay, separate from this world, letting Yahweh Shai increase in our day to day, that's wisdom. You see, and it's making us friends, all right, of the Most High. It said, the Most High have granted me to speak as I would, and to conceive as it is meet for the things that are given me, because it is he that leadeth unto wisdom and directeth the wise. For in his hand are both we, all right, and our words, all wisdom also, and knowledge and workmanship. For he have given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements. Okay, so King Solomon was laced with everything. Okay, the understanding how the world was made, how the world functions, the ecosystem. Okay, the elements, every element that exists, he knew, or the operation of it. Okay, he said the beginning, the ending, and the midst of times. So he knew the beginning, how things, from the creation, all right, to the present time he was in. All right, he knew the end prophecy, okay, the alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of the seasons. Man, he knew the seasons, okay, the circuit of years, the position of stars, which these things play a major difference in agriculture. Okay, he understood the what you call the horoscope. He knew these things on the right hand side. Okay, and it says the nature of living creatures. All right, you know what they would call like a zoologist today, and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of the winds, the weather, and the reason of men, psychology, the diversities of plants and roots, the herbs. Okay, so King Solomon was laced with everything, man. And see, we're getting this wisdom back. You know, brothers are tapped in. You know, some brothers, are tapped in. You know, when it comes to these things, man, brothers is becoming more and more wise. You know, when it comes to just the knowledge of the earth. You know, what is building, what is the herbs, what the diet. You see, the music. What the frequencies of music, and brothers is tapping in. Okay, and we're just going to constantly increase, man. And there's just so much wisdom to look forward to, man. That's one of the main things, I look forward to is just the wisdom the Lord gonna lace us with in the kingdom, man. You see, the wisdom that we're gonna operate with joint heirs with Yahweh Shah, man. Man. And it says, and all such things, all right, as are either secret or manifest, them I know. For wisdom, which is the work of all things, taught me. For in her is an understanding spirit, holy, Kakodash, one only, manifold. Okay, because wisdom can be applied from so many different angles, so many different levels. Okay, subtle. All right, knowing how to, be subtle, man. Okay, knowing how to be low key. Know how to be, how to maneuver around and through things. Lively. All right, clear. Because wisdom make you excited, man. When you have wisdom, like learning new wisdom is like an excitement, it's like a rush. It's like a natural high. Learning, new wisdom is lively, man. Every day waking up excited to learn something else, man, to add, to the repertoire, man. Okay. Reading on. Yeah, I'm gonna get there with the brother. Yeah. Reading on, it says undefiled, plain, not subject to hurt, loving the thing that is good, quick, which cannot be letted, ready to do good. Okay. It says kind to man, steadfast, sure, free from care. Hey, because when you look at kind to man, that doesn't mean that you're just passive and you're just you know just gullible, just giving everybody passes. No, kind to man, when you really go into it, if you go into the law, all right, and you had adultery, well, what will happen? The man and the woman, all right, will be put to death. Well, guess what? That's a kind act to everyone else, especially the people that's involved in that situation, man. The man that was done to, well, that's an act of kindness, man, for everyone else. You will stone the lazy son. Guess what? It's an act of kindness for everyone else. Okay, so being kind to man ain't just teddy bears and being passive and just being gullible. That ain't what they're speaking on. Being kind to man, all right, is having the wisdom to do the right thing. Okay, that's being kind to man, judging in righteousness, man. Okay, because one person or one or two people, all right, getting judged, is an act of kindness for everyone else, man. That's why scriptures say you will judge them in front of everybody to keep wickedness from Israel, to keep things from becoming the culture, man. Okay, to keep wickedness from becoming the culture, and we see now, because there's like a torment dwelling in this society with these people, man, where wickedness is unchecked. Okay, it says kind to man, steadfast, sure, free from care, and that's another thing. As we tapped into his wisdom, it makes us more and more free from care, man. You know, we don't care about the opinions of this world. We came up in a society, to where, it was all about, like I said, your clout, your status. You go to high school, junior high, high school is all about your clothes you wear, your status, your clout, your this, your that. Being an athlete, being the street nigga, the hood famous and all. Like, it's just a whole bunch of things that mean nothing that used to occupy our mind. Okay, but as we mature in wisdom, we become free from care, man. The things that these people care about, we don't. All right, and then we're not worried about the people how they react to this truth, man. We free from care because we know, okay, that the Lord is giving us a chance at mercy. Okay, and He's giving us a chance to be joint heirs with Yahweh. Even we don't care about, because people, they dedicate them lives to making so much amount of money, trying to get here by this age and here by this age. Well, we know we're here for a temporal situation, man. We do what we can in that situation. We're proactive, responsible, adults according to our obligations, man. Okay. And we don't have, that burden of trying to be here at this age and be here at that age. Nah, man, we free from all that care, man. We don't care what the world thought we were supposed to be, or our family thought we were supposed to be. We free from care, man. The opinions of Eve, trying to live up to Eve's standards. We're free from that care. Okay? Trying to fix black people. We're free from all that, man. Wisdom frees us from that because we know what it is now. We understand where this is heading. We know, according to prophecy, okay, how it ends. There's already a solution to every problem in the earth. And we know that through wisdom. So it makes us free from care. Okay? It says having all power, overseeing all things, and going through all understanding, pure and most subtle spirits. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passive and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness, for she is the breath of the power of the Most High. All right, a pure influence that breath that Adam received. Okay, is the breath that we receive. Ezekiel 37. Okay, and it said that breath of life, man. Okay, and it opens us up to all these things, man. All right, it says, in a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty, therefore can no defiled thing fall into her. For she is the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of the Most High, and the image of His goodness. Okay? It said the image of His goodness, man. So wisdom is a mirror of the Most High's image. Like true wisdom, that's the image of the Lord's goodness, man. Okay? Wisdom is like is a mirror of the goodness of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. So the more we walk in this wisdom, the more we put out the image of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, man. Okay, he says, in being but one, she can do all things, and remaining in herself, she maketh all things new as we become new creatures. In Yahweh Shai, see, all things are new. Okay, wisdom has given us a completely different perspective than what we had, man. And in all ages, entering into holy soul, she making them friends of the Most High and prophets, man. Okay, friends of the Most High and prophets, man. The Lord, okay, is dealing, with His men, His sons that's operating in His wisdom. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go back to First Kings. Third chapter. See, brothers got a few off the comment board. All right, this is the brother Young Yasha'Allah. All right, wisdom of Solomon. All right, chapter 8, verse 16 says, after I come into my house, I repose myself with her, for her conversation have no bitterness, and to live with her have no sorrow, but mirth and joy. And as we, repose ourselves, okay, with wisdom, all right, and you repose yourself with wisdom by laboring in His word, man. You see, as you get that word repose, let me see this word repose. All right, so you go into it. Okay, it's a state, of rest, relaxation. Okay, and we rest in His wisdom. We relax in His wisdom, man. You come read. As you study. You get into this thing. We're reposing ourselves. With wisdom, man. You know, it says, for a conversation have no bitterness, and to live with her have no sorrow but mirth and joy, because wisdom is all about an upgrade, making things more efficient, making things less complicated, simplifying things. Okay? Wisdom, gives us the game to maneuver, okay? To not get caught up in the mix and in the trap and in the snares and, in the unnecessary. Okay? When you read verse 17, it says, now when I, all right, consider these things in myself and pondered them in my heart, how that to be allied unto wisdom is immortality. Ooh, that's heavy. Going to the point that was being made earlier, man. Being allied unto wisdom is immortality, man. We tapping into something here, man. This is way beyond anything that this world can even think of or fathom, man. The world not on this, man. Okay, the world is on a very low frequency under Esau, Edom, man, and everything in it, everyone in it, man. Look at what the Lord has given us access to, this wisdom. And He said, you make yourself an ally to wisdom, is making yourself an ally to immortality, man. We're being taught on how to live forever. This is what we're being conditioned to do, to judge and live forever, man. Okay? With Yahweh Shai. Okay? So, let's go here. This is the brother, all right? Damawati, GMS in His likeness. John 15:14 said, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. So our friendship with Yahweh Shai depends on us being obedient. Okay, it's not unconditional, it's conditional. Okay, there's an obedience, there's an expectation when dealing with Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, you can't call on the name, you're not a friend. You can't call on the name of the Father and the Son, you're not a friend. You can't teach, a correct doctrine, you're not a friend. Okay? And all the other madness that niggas are on, you're not a friend. Okay? Verse 15 said, henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth, but I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. So all things, that Yahweh Shai heard of the Father, which is the doctrine we have, He made known unto us. The portion of wisdom that the Heavenly Father gave to Yahweh Shai to give to us. All right, we have 100% of it, man. Okay, and it's leading us to what? Immortality, man. Okay, wisdom bringing to a kingdom. You see? So going back to 1 Kings 3. All right, and in 14 it says, and if you follow me and obey my decrees and my commands as your father David did, I will give you a long life. And then Solomon woke up and realized it had been a dream. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the Lord's covenant, where he sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. Then he invited all his officials to a great banquet. Okay, so he woke up, from that dream. Okay, now this 1 Kings 3:16 says, sometime later, two prostitutes came to the king, all right, to have an argument settled. The word prostitutes. Okay, some niggas lose it. Okay, Jake, man, you hear that word, and Jake act like they just come from this like nigga culture, just this wholesome, culture. Everybody goddamn prostitute, man. Okay, well, you had prostitute. This wasn't the ideal, career for a woman. Okay, but it happened. All right, things happen, and the women will have to do that, to make it. Now you had, there's a difference between the harlot and temple harlots. All right. Now let's get what a temple harlot is. Okay, and I say being a harlot wasn't a position of honor, in Israel. Okay, but it was, certain women, due to certain things. All right, and they will have to turn, to prostitution, to support themselves, man. All right, let's go here. Matter of fact, okay, you know, get out of here. So let's go here. Get this article real quick. You got to go into these things. Grow up. Jake's are so goddamn, hypocritical. All right. Um, let's go here. It says, found this quick article. It says sacred prostitution was common throughout the ancient world and was particularly associated with Asterisk worship. All right. And it says one of the chief Canaanite goddesses. While many scholars have assumed sacred prostitution was practiced in ancient Israel, too, the Bar article, all right, cult prostitution in ancient Israel reveals that neither the Bible nor archaeology provides any clear evidence the Israelites' religions incorporated sexual rites of Asterisk worship. Okay, some biblical scholars, for example, have interpreted the story of Judah and Tamar as a cause of sacred prostitution, according to Genesis 38. Unsuspecting, Judah mistook his daughter-in-law Tamar for a veiled prostitute. For her services, Judah promised Tamar a sheep and gave her his seal and assurance the debt would be honored. When Judah's friend returned to redeem the pledge, he asked in the nearby village, all right, where he could find, all right, the Kodasha, all right, a Hebrew word for Bible translate as a I think they tripping. Okay. But when you go into it, when you had the instance of Tamar, all right, remember Tamar had become, a widow, okay, because her husband died, okay, and the brother of her husband, was too young for her to marry at the time, so she was stuck in the position to where she still had to provide for herself, okay, and she went to play the harlot, okay. But now when you have these heathens, okay, they was into the temple prostitution, okay, which they would, have sex in those temples and, the orgies and different things in honor and reverence, to their gods, okay. But there was a difference, all right. Now at the end of the day, both of them, a temple harlot was way worse, okay, because you had, idolatry in the mix. But being a harlot wasn't a badge of honor amongst Israel like it is now. And the scriptures say, it's part of our punishment. Okay, it was part of our punishment. When you go to Amos 7, okay, and 17, okay, it says, but this is what the Lord says: your wife, okay, will become a prostitute in this city. Okay, it's all the women of Israel. Okay, following their banner. All right. It says, and your sons and daughters will be killed, your land will be divided up, and you yourself will die in a foreign land, and the people of Israel will certainly become captives and exile far from their homeland. And that's what's happened to us, man. Okay. Hot girl culture. Your sons and daughters will be killed. All right. Drill culture. Your land will be divided up. All right. The Palestinians and the small hats. Okay, and you would die in the foreign land, mainly here in America, and all throughout the earth where we were scattered. Okay, and the people of Israel would become captives and exile from their homeland. So this was a curse put on all of us, man. Okay, and Jake gets so offended by the word prostitute or harlot, like they just come from, these wholesome, like nigga culture, just this wholesome culture where women are just untouched. Women just was untouched and covered up until GMS said the word prostitute or harlot. Okay, and niggas just lost it. Okay, get the hell out of here, man. Okay, uh, let's go back to First Kings. All right, this is First Kings 3:16 says, sometime later, two prostitutes came to the king and to have an argument settled. It said, please, my lord, one of them began, this woman and I live in the same house. I gave birth to a baby while she was with me in the house. 3 days later, this woman also had a baby. We were alone. There were only two of us in the house, but her baby died during the night when she rolled over on it. Then she got up in the night and took my son from beside me while I was asleep. She laid her dead child in my arms and took mine to sleep, all right, beside her. And in the morning, when I tried to nurse my son, he was dead. But when I looked more closely in the morning light, I saw that it wasn't my son at all. Then the other woman interrupted, it certainly was your son. The living child is mine. No, the first woman said, the living child is mine and the dead one is yours. And they argued back and forth before the king. So they're arguing about, this child. One woman, rolled over, and, one harlot rolled over and crushed her child. Okay. And the other woman, she took the dead child and replaced it, okay, with the other woman child. All right. It says, then the king said, let's get the facts straight. Both of you claim the living child is yours, and each says that the dead one belongs to the other. All right, bring me a sword. So a sword was brought, all right, to the king. Then he said, cut the living child in two and give half, all right, and give half to one woman and half to the other. Then the woman, who was a real mother of the living child, and who loved him very much, cried out, oh no, my lord, give her the child, please do not kill it. But the other woman said, all right, he will be neither yours nor mine, divide him between us. So one woman was like, look, you just kill it. I mean, you can what you had the first woman screamed down, say, let her have it, just let this child live. And the second woman was like, look, just kill it, it won't be both eyes. Okay. She had no, empathy. Okay, so then the king said, do not kill the child, but give him to the woman who wants him to live, for she is the mother. And what did King Solomon play on? All right, on human reasoning, the reason of humans. He went into that in the wisdom of Solomon, that he knew the reasonings of men, psychology, so he used the woman's nature, okay, in the situation. He provoked the real mother, all right, and she tapped into that nature to let the child live, all right, because a woman's spirit is to let she's a nurturer, so she goes all out, to secure, her child's safety. Okay, you see, so he played against what, the mother's nature, man, and he knew, okay, well, this is all right, the mother, based off the reaction. It says, when all Israel heard the king's decision, the people were in awe of the king, for they saw the wisdom the Most High had given him for rendering justice, man. And he was, became famous for that. Even in today, I think they have a saying in the courtrooms, when both sides, want to negotiate, they say, let's cut the baby in half, even in courtrooms today. Okay, let's see. Let's see, to give us some. Mm. Yep, let's go here. Just get it real quick. All right, just show you how wisdom. When you go here, what he did. Uh, so you have this term in the courtroom. They said the phrase "let's cut the baby in half" or "splitting the baby" refers to a compromise or settlement where both parties in the dispute receive a portion of what they want, often implying a less than ideal or even harmful outcome for all involved. The phrase, okay, originates from the biblical story of Solomon's judgment. Okay, So that judgment we just read, they still use that term, all right, today, cutting the baby in half. Okay. But this is, the beginning of King Solomon's, wise rule. Okay. So we're going to continue on, dealing with the era of Solomon, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified. Till next time I say Shalom, Kwame Ashala, Baba Ba Shalom.